I'm Angela, this is Everyday Expertise, and I'm with Jonathan Burrello, comedian, cartoonist. His latest book is Straight from the Pit of Hell, the Blinky and Sal collection. And let's see what his bio says. Jonathan Burrello is from Ilion, New York. Since the age of 18, he has lived in Kansas, California, South Korea, Spain, and Quebec. He enjoys weird movies, stand-up comedy, and sandwiches. In addition to cartooning, Jonathan has been a bookseller, a film critic, the Alternative Chronicle, a TV extra, a special needs aide, a forensics coach, an adjunct speech professor, an ESL teacher, a tutor, a ghostwriter, a humor columnist for 10 magazine, a storyboard artist, a comedian, an improv performer in Freshly Comedy Madrid, an actor, an amateur filmmaker, a radio host, Don't Fly Continental, and an illustrator. All right. What so you've done stand-up comedy in Spain and Korea?
Yeah.
What is that like in English?
It's very different.
Yeah.
It gives you a very false sense of confidence to start in an expat scene. Well, but that's where I started, really. I'd only done stand-up comedy maybe once or twice in the United States. And then I thought, I'm never going to do this again. And then moved to South Korea, and then met a good friend there, and he's like, hey, I've always wanted to do stand-up, and there's an open mic. Let's go for it.
So is it basically like just, I guess, expats that come?
In Korea, yeah. It's mostly just expats and whatever Korean boyfriends and girlfriends get dragged to the show. Spain is different. Spain, a lot of the Spanish will go to like the English shows and mix a little bit more.
And the humor translates?
No. Which is why I was at a little bit of a disadvantage in Spain, because I had to do much slower and simpler jokes because the English level was not super great for everybody in the audience. Korea spoiled me.
So basically, you would say then that comedy came before cartooning, or did it sort of happen at the same time?
No, cartooning. I've been cartooning since I was maybe 5 or 6, like whenever I could hold a pencil.
Yeah.
And I've been doing comics and things like this in my school newspapers and all kinds of stuff, and I keep doing it. And I just never really stopped. So.
Do you have any kind of like preference between the different projects you've done? The comics, the comedy, the other writing.
Like a preference between comedy and cartoons?
Do you have a preferred project sort of thing? Different.
I don't know. I really like them all. And I like writing about film too. I like performing. I like, but I don't know, writing. I like it all. I just don't make me pick. This is what's been holding me back all these years, is that I can't commit to one thing.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's holding you back. I mean, you're clearly doing things.
Yeah, I don't know. This is just a criticism people have always leveled at me, is that you have to pick something. You can't just do all of the things. I have narrowed it down because I used to want to be a filmmaker too. Yeah. And I stopped doing that just because I didn't think I had the aptitude for it. But I still like movies quite a bit.
All right. So you said you started cartooning like when you were 5 or whatever. Like, so how did you get started with what you're working on now with the Blinky and Sal?
Well, I had another character that I've been doing for most of my like kid life and I even kept him into college as my character for the newspaper, which is a little cute bear character. And then when I moved to Korea, I kind of went through like an ideological shift that had been like years fomenting, and it wasn't just like a snap thing. It was, okay, I was coming to terms and I was changing as a person, and I wanted to do something a little bit different and start out with a little bit more intention. Because the bear character was very just, okay, well, I have a teddy bear, so I'm going to do a teddy bear character. That's what the character is. But I said, I always like bats, and I want to do that. And I want to design the characters to be very like recognizable, but not recognizable for how they look, but have no definite species or anything, except for the main character. Right. Which has actually been one of the biggest criticisms I got from the strip, is that what's Sal? What is this character? What are they?
You mean like species?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's a cartoon character.
I know, but people get upset because...
They're like, I don't know what this is. I can't connect with it now.
Yeah, well, I do realize that it does work against me.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm trying to do viral comics or comics that are just 4-panel, just joke and put it out there.
Okay.
They require a lot of context because I feel like for a lot of people, I know for me, and I think I'm not alone, if I see a comic with set characters that I don't know because I haven't read other comics with them, like I might think, okay, well, why is this character a sea otter? Is there a reason for that? How does that play into the joke?
Like,
is that part of it?
What are they metaphor for? And
Yeah, which is why like Cyanide and Happiness and a lot of other web comics that just have very basic like round face with extreme expressions that you can play with, and they're very easy to like plug anything you want in there. There's context is very low. You just look at it and it's instantly funny, and you don't have to go into the back catalog to understand.
The words are more important than say the image.
Yeah.
Ish, a bit.
Which is not to say that, because I actually like Cyanide and Happiness and a lot of the other comics that use, like I know my comics are more detailed maybe, and maybe that's to their detriment, but that's just what I like to do and what I like to look at. So. Well
then, other than you like bats, why does Sal sort of have that like cigar and the mustache, and he's sort of a fishworm type thing?
It's a mixture of Groucho Marx and the illustrations of Ivan Maximov, who's a Russian animator. I think he still makes short films. But I really like the worlds that he creates because they're very familiar but alien, and there's no recognizable creature. Like there are things that are rabbit-like or things that are elephant-like, but they're not. They're something else. And so my idea was, well, I want to do a character that lives in a hole and we never see his tail end, so maybe he goes on for forever.
That's pretty cool.
And also it limited him too, so
it's like he's in a hole.
He always has to be in the hole.
Yeah, so. Except when he's in the car.
Yeah, he drives and he gets around sometimes, but we never see his butt.
It's true. So you never really see his legs either, I guess.
No. He has little fins, but that's about it.
That's pretty much it. And then you have your little vampire bat, who's like sort of in the middle of the ideologies.
Yes, of the political spectrums as represented by the characters.
Yeah, you have Spatsby with the giant mouth.
Yes.
And the weird trailing arms.
Yes.
Why?
Again, it was a pure.
I know it's not fair to ask artists like why. I've always hated being asked that myself, but I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, I can see like the mouth, right? Like I get that. It's the type of person he's sort of representing, right?
Just
always
mouth
talking.
agape, big teeth, just dead eyes staring off into nowhere.
And then but the arms, it's interesting. It's really it's interesting artistically. But
I don't know if I have a really clever reason for it, other than aesthetically. I thought it was amusing. Like he has these ineffectual, long, sort of puppet-like arms that sort of trail behind him, but he uses them. He lifts them up. But I just thought it looked funny.
And then you just have like a little vampire bat who has this instinct to suck people's blood. Yeah, well, you know, it's in his DNA. You can't help that. That's speciesist. You know. All right. Okay, so basically, I think we've touched on this already, obviously, but you mentioned, I think, in your prologue and you mentioned already that Blinky and Sal is sort of personal for you. Yeah. I think, Do you want to talk a little bit about why? I realize I shouldn't feel embarrassed to talk about it because the cartoon is very naked. It's very very much like everything I've been thinking about is like kind of in there. So I feel like I'm maybe too vulnerable in there. But I was brought up very, very religious, like a lot of people, and there's nothing really special about that. But I sort of deconverted as an adult. A lot of people I feel like I was a late bloomer to it. And so, what was the question exactly? Why Blinky and Sal is sort of a very personal project for you?
Yeah, so the reason I started doing this comic at the time was because I was coming to terms with not believing any of the things that I was like that had been drilled into me, and
Right.
I wasn't like a casual believer. Like I went on mission trips, I played cello in the orchestra for the church. I would volunteer, I'd do all kinds of stuff. Like, and I really believed. I read my Bible every day. I have a degree in biblical theology, actually. A minor though, not a.
Yeah.
But after all of that, you put in all this time and thought into something, and then you come to a conclusion that I don't believe any of this anymore, and it's really not anyone's fault other than I just don't. So I wanted to unpack some of those things. So we get Blinky, who's sort of optimistic and trying to still search for meaning, and and I think he wants there to be something more.
Right.
I consider him a baby humanist. He'll get there, but he's not quite there yet.
Right.
He's still attached to the ethereal. And Sal is much more of a grounded empiricist. And he's very much, well, materialism is all there is, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not particularly happy, maybe, but it doesn't have to be. Like, you make your own happiness in that. And then there's Spatsby, who's like kind of who I feel like who I used to be, but like a caricature of that.
Okay.
Just very like, always with the tie, trying to look very nice, like a Jehovah's Witness ringing your doorbell or something. And I make fun of him a lot, but his religion is real to him, and he means well, even if it doesn't always come off that way.
And Todd actually has a form in the cartoon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, even though that I don't believe in a God, there is a God that more or less exists. For all intents and purposes, it exists in the world of the comic.
In the world of the comic, yeah.
Even if he's limited to who can experience him. Just because I like playing with this archetype. And it's such a real part of other people's lives that, and I feel like a lot of media and entertainment doesn't really talk about these things at all because it's too touchy.
Sidestep it.
Yeah, and I get it. It's touchy.
Yeah. Okay, so this show is very much about process. Walk me through like when you start. Let's go with like you get an idea for a comic and to the finished product kind of thing.
Some of them, it very much depends on me in the day. Like if I have an idea for that day, like if I go for a walk and I'm processing something, like an idea that I've been thinking about, it might be based on something that like a conversation I've had with someone or something I've been observing or something in the news or whatever, just remembering things from like apologetics that I had read and why I disagree with them. And I might do it that day, and I might sit down, sketch it out. I'll figure out which characters I want to use, where they'll be standing or sitting, and then ink it, scan it, and color it, and that will be like a few hours of work in there. Other times it'll sit, I'll write it down, and it'll stew for months, and then I'll eventually get to it. And
so would you say that the sort of average length of time to create a comic strip is about a day or less than that even?
I mean, it's not consistent work. Like if I say I've put something down for 4 months, it's not because I really want to get it just right. And those ones are more for like story ones. Like if I'm working on a longer one where I really wanted to say a certain thing and I don't always work consistently on it. So we'll say maybe an hour or two to ink and then an hour or two to color. Okay.
How often do you post?
Twice a week on Pathos, non-religious. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Major influences?
For sure, Berkeley Breathed, who did
Yes, I definitely see
Bloom
a lot
County.
of Bloom County in your work.
The Far Side was what got me into comics as a kid and got me into reading. Was the Far Side.
I can see some of the style.
And I still think that's probably one of the funniest comics consistently. And obviously Calvin and Hobbes, but that one I think is so far beyond what I'm capable of doing. I'm like, it's like an inspiration for a lot of comic artists, but it's like, oh, that's like the gold standard.
Yeah.
But I really, I don't know, I'm really influenced by that. Also a little bit of Ren and Stimpy and Looney Tunes.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
Even though those are not comics in the same sense.
No, I mean, it makes sense. What is something you wish you'd known about cartooning before you started?
I feel like I always knew there wasn't money in it. So that hasn't been a huge disappointment.
That's good.
I feel like I wish I knew marketing and had more of an aptitude for business, because I'm kind of just throwing everything I can at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Right.
And trying different things, and it's a much slower process. And I see people who either get lucky or they know what they're doing, and they're able to get some traction very, very quickly. And I feel like a lot of it is, they know what they're doing, maybe they're a little more disciplined, and I'm not exactly sure the steps I could take.
Well, you've also, I guess, kind of missed the webcomic boom and bubble burst, right? So really, like, a lot of the webcomics that came out in like the early 2000s, a lot of them died. And the ones that have survived are the ones where people were just incredibly consistent and maybe a little lucky, and
and there's some
really
still great ones going on right now that I really like a lot. Like Jake Likes Onions, I think, is a very, very good one, and like The Oatmeal, everyone knows that one. That one's been around for a while. And I love Sketch Shark. They're not even jokes, but that one's one of my favorite ones. It's just they're I don't want to call them witless, but they're just silly and fun. They make me laugh more than most things, I think. Sketch Shark, find it on Instagram. Shark. She has a book coming out too, I think, in September.
Oh, yeah? Cool. All right, so let's talk about your work and your life balance. How do you integrate your work into your daily life? I mean, if you do, I don't know. Are you cartooning full time, or do you have a day job?
No, I have a day job, which is also part time. I work as minimally as possible because I have a lot of artistic things I try to work on, and as much as they don't pay very much, they make me happier. So I'm an English tutor by day, and at night I'm a stand-up comic, and then throughout the day in between my breaks, if I'm not warming up ramen or something, I'm probably drawing a cartoon or working on another project that I want to do.
How do you feel that that parts of your daily life, do they affect your work, your cartooning work and your artistic work, I should say? Do other aspects of your life influence your comic at all, or any other project?
I'll say potentially, because one of the reasons why I love doing stand-up comedy is I love talking to comics. I think I'm a little biased here, but I do think they're some of the good ones anyway, are the most honest people. And there's no like veneer of like trying to like look a certain way. And it's very just, they'll say exactly what's on their mind and they'll put it in a funny way. And I kind of really like that. And that's where I feel the most comfortable. And I've gotten a few ideas from that and like just bouncing things off. And maybe from tutoring, well, having lived in other countries, and now that I work exclusively with people from all over the world, like get Russia, Taiwan, Brazil, whatever you want, that kind of keeps me, I mean, I don't think I've ever been a nationalist, but like it keeps me humbled in a way that I think I like to keep an eye on what's going on in the rest of the world, and sort of remembering that like whatever weird block I happen to be living on, like there's a lot more of people out there with their own ideas and things.
And you find that goes into that sort of gets itself into Blinky and Sal at all? Or, I mean, I noticed you've done some Trump cartoons.
A little bit.
Yeah,
I don't do too many overtly political ones, but like my main worldview is one of internal skepticism and the humility and the acknowledgement that we all think we're right, and people with wildly different attitudes and mutually exclusive conclusions all believe they're equally right. And I talk to them every day.
Yeah.
And so that keeps me from going like, well, I'm the only one who's right. And like, I mean, obviously I tend to think I'm right because we have to. This is how you get through the day. But I always try to keep that little window open of like, you can sway me, but and I hope more people do that and exercise that. I think it's maybe not cozy to do, like to constantly be wondering, am I wrong about everything I've ever thought?
To be challenged, that's not a bad thing.
No, but I think it's
I think people don't want to be challenged enough anymore.
My attitude is this, like you can't be being skeptical of external things doesn't really mean anything. That's easy to do. I think it's much harder, and it's more work to maintain internal skepticism.
Right.
And I think it makes your external skepticism much more worthy. A little biased again, because it's, of course, is what I think, so it's probably the right way.
Then everything is biased.
You know, it is.
If it came from your thoughts.
Oh, yes.
Yes. All right. Favorite, least favorite aspects of making comics?
The never being happy with the finished product is probably the biggest downside. Even if it does well, like it gets shared a lot or gets a lot of likes, it's still like it's not good enough though.
That's something you just have to train yourself to do. Is the letting go part, right? Otherwise, nothing ever goes into the world. No,
but this is the one thing. Like for years, I didn't put anything out because I was too embarrassed. But then I said I'm going to do it anyway, and I'll never be happy with it. But I have to get it out just to get it out. Maybe someone else will like it more than me.
Right.
Because we're all our worst critics, and I know which line doesn't go there and shouldn't have been there, and I'm reading it again thinking like, oh yeah, this isn't it's not lettered properly, or the writing isn't strong enough, or maybe this character wouldn't have said that way.
You can always revise it, but
I've done that to a few of them.
That's true. This is a reboot.
I've done a couple. It feels weird doing that. But yeah, I've done it. I've done some comics I've drawn out and inked and even colored, and I've done it a couple times with the same one, and I still haven't published them, and I won't. It's like they're never getting out.
They're never getting out. Huh. Well, what do you really like about cartooning then? What's something you really like?
I like that there are no rules, really.
Yeah.
Like, people may complain that, like, they don't know what the characters are as far as species and things, but I kind of like that they can be anything. Like, if you look at Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse, they are so far removed from the aesthetics of an actual mouse or a rabbit, and it's like, but we recognize it. And the fact that in comics, I don't do this enough, but I want to do more with, like shot composition. There's only a few comics where I'm really proud of that, like I think use the medium of comics really, really well in a visual way, not just like, a face.
Right.
Because I think that's a powerful thing. People who are really, really good at that, I'm very, very impressed by, and those are the ones that I'd like to copy. Not copy, but like I want to copy
Emulate.
them. Emulate. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah.
I like just sitting down on a white piece of paper and knowing that, hey, there's nothing on here, and I'm going to put characters with thoughts and feelings and emotions about certain things, and they're going to bounce off each other and disagree. In this weird world I've decided has cactuses and ledges of earth with like pipes coming out of them,
and like humans interacting with animals.
Yes,
which is very common in cartoon strips.
Yes,
but yeah.
And that's probably the most. I tend to favor animals more, like than they're just more fun to draw.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I've always loved animals. Like going, like I had books and books of like biology, which just had like different animals all over the world and like different ecosystems, and I thought that was so cool. But I did feel like, all right, I need to have a couple human characters in there to like balance it out, so people aren't so.
And so your main human character is Luna, the mad scientist.
Yes.
Who has a mutated fly as an assistant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a small nod to The Fly.
Of course.
The Vincent Price one, not the Jeff Goldblum one.
Yeah.
But.
And in the earlier, I don't know. I mean, I'm almost done the book. In the earlier ones, Blinky has a master, like a vampire master.
Yeah.
Or he says he's a vampire. I don't know if he's actually a vampire.
Yeah, it's not clear. And there were more of him that were not included in the book, actually.
Yeah.
There was a few I didn't put in just because I'm like, this doesn't, I'm really not happy with it anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I dropped that character just because it was just getting too muddled and clumsy with all these characters. And the other thing was like a little bit of like gender consciousness of just like I'm really stacking up all the dudes. And like it started out innocent enough. It was like, okay, 2 characters and they interact and like they happen to be male. For no other reason than that they just were.
Yeah.
And then I added Spatsby, and I'm like, well, he's a dude. And then it's like, okay, a vampire too. Like, okay, also a dude. So there really wasn't any female characters in the strip, really. And I felt like, oh, that's not really. And part of the reason was like, I don't know, can I write female characters? Like, could I? What do they say? Sort of like the Seinfeld thing, where they didn't include Elaine in the first episode.
Yeah.
But no, then I started adding them, and I liked Eleanor is the other one, the narwhal.
Yeah, the depressed narwhal.
Yeah, which that was a fan recommendation. She was a one-off character, and people said bring her back. So I was like, okay. And then I wrote another one, and I was trying to figure out her character, like what is she? And she's kind of just a depressed, like ball of insecurity.
Yeah.
And I like writing for her though, because I think she's similar to Blinky in a way, but like more innocent.
Right.
Maybe. No, maybe not.
It's interesting. Okay. Do you experience block?
Oh yes.
Yes. How do you cope with block?
Drinking. I don't know. There are a great many substances in this universe that are all at our disposal. No, if I'm not feeling it, I'll put it down for a while and I won't do it. Or usually I'll go for a walk or a series of walks.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I do, every place I've ever moved and lived, it's been sort of, I guess, a mild obsession is walking until I get myself lost and trying to find my way back.
Okay.
And that's something that I don't know. Every place I've visited, I've tried to do that. If it's not too crazy and dangerous, but like in a reasonable neighborhood, it's like okay, here. You're not going to certain parts of the world. Like let's see if I get lost here. Montreal is a very safe city. So so especially where I am.
Certainly where you are, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good here, and it's just kind of a nice little thing to try to turn that part of your brain on, because normally you're just on autopilot. Like I know how to get to the metro from here. I know how to get to this place. We all go to the same like 6 or 7 places every day, so we don't really think about it too much. So I like activating that. And
at this sort of on the same subject, stress. You experience stress.
Sure.
How do you deal with that, especially when it comes to your work? Right? Like your comics and stuff. Do you experience stress, obstacles? How do you cope with those when they come up?
Like, is stress in general or stress regarding the comics?
Yeah, I would think mostly.
I don't really have that much stress. I guess surrounding the comics anyway. Aside from like I don't ever expect them to do well, or I don't ever expect to make any money. So like it's never like I got to make this thing. Like no, it's fine. Everything's terrible, and I'll probably die penniless. But you know, it's cool. I've come to that already.
How do you deal with other stress then?
By writing comics.
By writing comics?
So
that's your outlet?
That's my place to go, where I'm like, I'm frustrated by this thing that either I see or I have once thought or think now, and I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with that. Yeah, so there's that.
Yeah.
Also, I hope it's funny too, and not just that it's
it's not just
deeply
cathartic.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, although my favorite comics are the ones that aren't funny, they're the ones that are a little bit just more sad or
a little more dark
or confusing and dark. I'd rather be ambiguous than funny.
All right.
Like some of the ones I like, it feels like it could be read any number of different ways.
Okay.
Like, is this who does the writer think is the hero in this one?
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. I haven't done too many like that, but I like when I can.
So like basically like something that elicits an emotion other than laughing.
Yeah, I mean, I like
it makes people think or something like this.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was like purely intentional or that's just how my mind makes a story or makes a joke.
Well, I think that can kind of go back to your sort of you're having Calvin and Hobbes as an influence because the best Calvin and Hobbes cartoons are the ones that made you think.
Yeah.
You know?
Although I feel like
you went ha, and then you went huh.
Oh. Yeah. I believe he was much more succinct and better at it. Like, yeah, seriously, reading some of his, even now, like I go back and read any one of them, and they're so like concise and just piercing.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a lot of nebulousness.
No.
It's very much, this is what it is, and then you sit with the thought. And you usually laugh and you usually like smile because it's beautifully illustrated.
Do you have any advice for people starting out in what you do?
Yeah, I guess what I would say is there are a few people who are like kind of I can tell they're experimenting. I follow them on Instagram and stuff. And the fact that they have an Instagram and they're putting it out, I think is the best thing you can do to get started. Otherwise, you just write it and draw it, keep it to yourself, and you're like, maybe one day I'll put it out. Like, put it out now. Even if it's not good enough, it will never be good enough. You have to accept it. It'll never be good enough, but put it out and you'll get the feedback. I also put stuff on Reddit sometimes, and that gives me like a little bit more feedback, and I can see like, okay, people like this joke, but not this one as much. So part of it is trying to figure out, yes, I want to be true to myself and say the things that are important to me, but I also want to please people. Like I do want them to like it. Like I don't want to just be in my little box of just me. So I was like, yeah, put it out as many places as you can. Listen to the feedback and the criticism. A lot of people who are your friends will just tell you very nice things and kind things, and they mean well, and maybe they're right. But listen to the negative criticism. I mean, I'm the type of person who like will focus on the negative much more easily than I'll focus on the positive. Like if someone like, oh, 50 thumbs up, and one guy says, no, I don't care for that. That's the one I remember. It doesn't matter how many people liked it or told me that they enjoyed it.
Why didn't you like it?
Yeah, and then I was like, maybe I can change it so that he will like it. And like that, but that's a sickness. You can't please everybody all the time. No. But listen to the negative criticism. And
do you find you mostly get constructive feedback? Like you don't get too many trolls or anything like this?
Yeah, or when I do get trolls, it's for like, I don't know. It's usually only ever on Reddit, which I think is more reflective of that community. Yeah. Which I never really did Reddit until like a couple months ago, and then someone said you should put your comics on there, so I started doing that. And I don't quite get the culture of Reddit, and I feel like I missed it, and I'm glad a little bit. Yeah. But most of the people who complain, it's either because you misused a point, or a word isn't used properly, or this or that. It's like pedantic stuff, which might be valid to a point, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, you're right. But it's not about me saying, yeah, you're right, or no, I disagree, because it's just like anything I do is like, well, then I'll write another paragraph about how I'm stupid. I'm like, okay, so I see what this is. All right. Yeah. So yeah, just a matter of keeping the trolls out, but like criticism is important. It's how you grow. Yeah.
All right, we are pretty much at the end. Is there anything you want to plug right now? Talk about.
Well, I hope this.
Where people can find you, what you want them to read.
Sure. Well, I hope this had some shape to it. My answers wasn't just rambling nonsense. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram and also on Twitter. And on Facebook. There's a fan page for Blinky and Sal, and they're all under the handle Big Insane Happy. How can people get your book? People can get my book on Amazon. It's called Straight from the Pit of Hell. I don't know if you want to put that there again. I don't have one in front of me. So yeah, it's called Straight from the Pit of Hell, and that one's on Amazon. It's a collection of the first 5 years of cartoons from the series, and I'll probably have another one out hopefully in few more months. I'd like to anyway.
Are you doing any stand-up anytime soon? Or?
Yes, I don't know. You have to find me on Facebook. They come and go. Some are last minute, and so every week is completely different. I do kind of a regular show. We're taking a small break now, but we should be back for at least July. This is at the Art Loft every Thursday, where we watch old, sort of schlocky films. Not necessarily old, and I want to say not necessarily just schlocky, but usually WTF type cinema.
Right.
It's sort of in the same vein as Mystery Science Theater 3000, where there's a panel of comics who will make commentary throughout and ask ridiculous questions. The audience also does this. It's very participatory. And then at the end, we ask questions and try to dissect it, sort of like, how did this get made?
Right.
So if you like either that show or that podcast, or just like bad movies and like making fun of them, it's the show for you. And that show is called This Won't Be For Everyone.
Awesome. All right. So thank you, Jonathan. So this is Angela, and this has been Everyday Expertise. Thank you for watching. Bye. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this interview. Be sure to share this video with friends and colleagues who may also enjoy this topic. Let us know your thoughts by leaving a comment below, or check the description for our social media. See you next time.